The moment I understood my marriage was already over didn't arrive with shouting or slammed doors. It happened quietly. Lauren was sitting right next to me on the couch, legs tucked under her, the TV murmuring in the background. She was scrolling on her phone and smiling at the screen in a soft, private way I hadn't seen in a long time. That smile wasn't meant for me. And in that ordinary second, my stomach dropped. I didn't have proof yet. I hadn't confronted her. But I knew the distance between us wasn't just stress. It was space she'd already filled with someone else. I'm 37. I live in Overland Park, Kansas. I work as a logistics manager for a regional distribution company, the kind of job where you learn to stay calm even when the day is falling apart. For 8 years, I was married to Lauren. Saying was still feels wrong, like my mouth is catching up to a truth my heart didn't want. Lauren and I met when we were 29 at a friend's backyard barbecue. I walked over because I didn't know anyone well enough to be loud, and she looked like she understood that feeling. We talked about work first. I told her about freight schedules and late trucks. She told me about patients, insurance calls, and how she spent half her day soothing people who were scared of pain. When I asked for her number, it didn't feel like a gamble. It felt natural. We dated for 3 years before we got married. 3 steady years where trust came without effort. Lauren worked as a patient care coordinator at a private orthopedic clinic. She handled scheduling, follow-ups, and paperwork. She was organized and dependable, the kind of person who remembered birthdays and kept extra chargers in her car. I liked that she showed up. I liked that she felt solid. I proposed at a small Italian place we loved. No crowd, no grand speech, just my hand shaking and her eyes filling with tears. She said yes immediately and squeezed my hands like she was afraid I'd disappear. "I'm in," she whispered. I believed her. The early years of marriage were calm in the way you don't appreciate until it's gone. We bought a 2-story house near a park, white siding, small backyard. We settled into routines that felt safe. Work, dinner, errands, little moments of comfort that didn't need an audience. We talked about kids someday, and we meant it. We talked about taking a big trip out west. We talked like time was guaranteed. I trusted Lauren completely. Trust was just there, like oxygen. When things started changing, they didn't change in one obvious moment. They changed in dozens of small ways that were easy to explain away. Lauren began coming home later from work. Not outrageously late, 30 minutes, sometimes an hour. She said the clinic was short-staffed. She said paperwork was piling up. She said she didn't want to leave the next person drowning. It sounded responsible. It sounded like her. Then our conversation started shrinking. She used to tell me stories about her day, a patient who brought cookies, an elderly man who flirted with the nurses, a kid who was terrified of crutches. Over time, those stories turned into summaries. Busy day, same stuff, long. If I asked questions, she answered, but with less detail, like she was conserving energy, or like she didn't want me in that part of her life anymore. I told myself she was tired. Her phone became a constant presence. She started keeping it face down on the table. If it buzzed, she'd glance quickly, then pull it closer. When she texted, her thumbs moved fast, and sometimes she'd smile, small. I noticed. I felt the discomfort in my chest, and I hated myself for noticing. I didn't want to be paranoid. I didn't want to turn into someone who interrogated his wife like a suspect. So I swallowed the feeling and acted normal. By year 7, the distance had a shape. We still ate dinner together, but the table felt wider. We still slept in the same bed, but the space between us felt like a physical object. Lauren stopped reaching for my hand in stores. She stopped leaning into me on the couch. She stopped asking how my day went in a way that meant she wanted the answer. When I tried to talk about it, she sighed and said work was draining her. She said her brain felt fried by the time she got home. She said she needed space to decompress. "Can we not make everything a conversation?" she asked one night, rubbing her temples. I backed off. I didn't want to push. I told myself love meant patience. I didn't realize I was giving her room to leave. The first crack happened on a Thursday night. Lauren fell asleep early on the couch, the TV still on low volume. Her phone buzzed. Once. Then again. I wasn't trying to snoop. I just wanted the buzzing to stop before. It woke her. I picked up the phone. The screen lit up with a name I didn't recognize. Evan, PT. The message preview said, "I keep replaying today in my head." My stomach dropped so hard it felt like the floor moved. I didn't open it. I set the phone back down like it was hot. Lauren didn't wake up. The show kept playing. I lay awake later, staring at the ceiling, trying to talk myself out of what I felt. Physical therapist, I told myself. Coworkers text. Maybe something funny happened at the clinic. But the words didn't match the feeling in my gut. The next morning, Lauren acted normal. Too normal. She kissed my cheek, asked if I wanted eggs or cereal, talked about weekend plans like nothing had happened. When her phone buzzed, she turned it slightly away before checking it. I tried to keep my voice casual. "Who's Evan?" She didn't hesitate. "Oh, he's a physical therapist at work," she said. "He helps with patient mobility." "Why?" No pause, no defensiveness. Smooth. I nodded, but my coffee suddenly tasted like metal. Something inside me shifted. Over the next couple weeks, patterns became impossible to ignore. Late days were always Tuesdays and Thursdays. On those mornings, Lauren put more effort into her appearance. Nice blouse, perfume, earrings she hadn't worn in months. She took phone calls outside, stepping into the backyard even when it was cold. If I walked near, she lowered her voice. She started going to the gym more often, but she came home without the usual worn-out look. Sometimes she showered immediately, like she needed to rinse off the day. One night, while we loaded the dishwasher, I tried again. "Are we okay?" I asked. Lauren kept her eyes on the plates. "Yeah," she said. "I'm just tired. It's been a lot." Her voice wasn't angry. It was distant, like she was answering a coworker. I didn't push. I went to bed with the familiar ache of being alone next to someone. The discovery didn't come with a dramatic confrontation. It came because of a careless pocket. One Saturday, Lauren asked me to grab her gym bag from the car. She was rushing, already halfway up the stairs. "It's in the back seat," she called. "Can you bring it in?" I went into the garage, opened the car door, and lifted the bag. As I swung it up, her phone slid out of a side pocket and clattered onto the concrete. The screen lit up. Unlocked. A message thread open. I froze. I didn't plan to read it. I didn't want to, but the words were there, bright against the dark screen, and my brain registered them before my conscience could stop it. "I wish I could stay longer. Being with you feels easy. Today felt too short." My hands started shaking. I scrolled once, almost involuntarily. Weeks of messages, lunch plans, walks near the clinic, inside jokes. Then the lines that made my vision blur. "I don't want to hurt him. I know, but this feels real. I feel more like myself with you." They talked about me like I was a responsibility, like I was a decent man she didn't want to crush, but also a man she'd already stepped away from. 8 years collapsed in a handful of glowing sentences. I wanted to throw up. I wanted to scream. Instead, I did the quietest thing I've ever done. I set her phone back in the back pocket exactly where it had been. I carried the gym bag inside like nothing happened. And I sat at the kitchen table, hands flat on the wood, staring at the grain pattern like it could tell me what to do. Lauren came downstairs a minute later, dressed in leggings and a hoodie, hair damp. She stopped when she saw me. "What's wrong?" she asked, voice cautious. I looked at her and felt something split. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I asked one question. How long? Her face changed, like the mask slipped for half a second. She sat down slowly across from me. 6 months, she said. 6 months. Half a year of waking up next to me, kissing my cheek, eating dinners I cooked, and carrying another life in her pocket. My throat tightened. Is it physical? I asked, hating the words. Lauren blinked fast. No, she said. Not like that. I didn't know if I believed her. And then the calmer, worse thought arrived. Even if she was telling the truth, it didn't matter. Because intimacy isn't only bodies. It's attention. It's honesty. It's giving someone the parts of you your partner used to have. She had done that. We talked for hours. Lauren said it started as friendship. She said Evan listened. She said he asked about her day in a way that made her feel seen. She said she didn't mean for it to happen. She said our marriage had become routines and checklists. She said she felt invisible. I wanted to defend myself, to list the things I'd done, the ways I tried. But my anger kept collapsing into exhaustion. People don't cheat because their partner forgot to buy the right cereal. People cheat because they choose to. When Lauren asked if I wanted counseling, her voice sounded hopeful, like this was a problem we could fix with an appointment and some honesty. I surprised myself by saying no. She stared at me. No? She repeated. I can't compete with someone you're already choosing, I said, my voice steady even though my hands were shaking under the table. Lauren's eyes filled. I stopped, she said quickly. I can stop. I'll end it. I'll do whatever you want. I looked at her and felt a grief so heavy it made my shoulders ache. You already did it, I said. You already built a whole place where I wasn't invited. That night I slept in the guest room. The house sounded different. The refrigerator hum felt louder. Every creak felt like a question. Lauren knocked once on the guest room door. I'm sorry, she said through the wood. I didn't answer. Not to punish her. I just didn't know what words could exist between us anymore. The weeks after were a slow unraveling. We moved around each other like cautious roommates. We talked about practical things, bills, groceries, the mortgage. Lauren said she cut
off contact with Evan. She offered to show me her phone. I didn't look. If I turned into her warden, we'd be dead in another way, and I couldn't handle reading those messages again. At work, I stared at reports and realized I hadn't absorbed a single line. Coworkers asked if I was okay, and I said, just tired, the way Lauren used to. Food lost its taste. Music felt irritating. Even weekends felt like traps, because there was nowhere to hide from the silence. About 3 weeks later, Lauren tried again. She stood in the living room doorway, arms folded, eyes red. I feel like you're already gone, she said. I exhaled slowly. I am, I said. Her breath hitched. I made a mistake, she whispered. I shook my head. A mistake is forgetting to call someone back, I said. This was months of decisions. She opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time, she didn't have a smooth answer. That quiet told me more than any apology could. We filed for divorce quietly. No screaming, no revenge, just paperwork that made everything official. I watched her sign her name and thought about the night I proposed, how she'd whispered, "We're going to be okay." Maybe she meant it then. Maybe
she believed it. But meaning something once doesn't protect it forever. Lauren moved out in the spring. The sky that morning was bright and cruelly blue. She carried boxes like she'd done it 100 times, calm, efficient. Before she left, she stood on the porch and looked at me. "I never wanted to be someone who could do this," she said. I believed her, but wanting isn't the same as choosing. I nodded because I didn't have anything else. When her car backed out of the driveway, I stood there until the sound disappeared. Then I went inside, closed the door, and sank to the floor. Not screaming, not sobbing, just empty. The months after were quieter than I expected. I repainted the walls because I couldn't stand the color we picked together. I donated furniture that felt like it belonged to a couple I didn't recognize. I started walking the park near our house in the evenings. I thought about the little signs I'd dismissed, the face-down phone, the rushed answers, the late Tuesdays and Thursdays. But I also stopped blaming myself for her choices. Adults aren't accidents, they're decisions. A year has passed now. I don't feel over it, like betrayal is something you finish.
Feel changed. I learned trust isn't built by how much you give. It's built by who is willing to protect what you give them. I learned love doesn't always end with a fight. Sometimes it ends with a slow turning away, one small choice at a time, until the person next to you becomes a stranger. And I learned that if you feel that distance growing, you can't fill it with patience forever, because silence is not neutral. Silence is a message. And if you ignore it long enough, one day you'll look over at the person you married, watch them smile at a screen, and realize you're already alone in the same room.